Let me ask you this question about a vote. If a candidate opposed making permanent the Bush tax cuts, if a candidate supported amnesty for illegal aliens, if a candidate supported cap and trade, if a candidate supported the Patient's Bill of Rights, if a candidate supported closing Guantanamo Bay, if a candidate supported the Gang of 14, which undermined efforts to kill the unconstitutional liberal filibuster of Bush appointees, would you vote for that candidate? Well, I just described John McCain. And we have conservatives coming out and supporting him. Most of them are on the East Coast. The Wall Street Journal, National Review, Hot Air, and some others supporting this man. And the thin reed they give for supporting this man, on which they stand, is that JD Hayworth is worse. Because JD Hayworth was seen in an infomercial endorsing free grants, free federal grants. And, among other things, he supported a lot of pork. Maybe there's 2 or 3 other issues, I don't know. Now, most of this stuff was dug up by McCain's high-priced operatives who did such a fine job against Obama, didn't they? But these operatives, for the most part, are people who despise conservatives. And so does McCain. Now they say JD is a flip-flopper because he was in an infomercial supporting free federal grants. Flip-flopper. You see McCain lately down there on the border? No. We've seen him there. We've seen these commercials. Now he's Mr. American Sovereignty. Secure the border. Well, I guess I'm a contrarian because I think by far the better of the two candidates is JD Hayworth, imperfect as he may be. And I'm going to tell you why. Despite his infomercial, despite his votes for pork, nothing Hayworth supported would have fundamentally transformed this nation in a negative way. As I wrote on my Facebook post, I didn't have to spend summer after summer with you fighting off J.D. Hayworth's proposals on immigration, on cap and trade, on a so-called Patient's Bill of Rights, on closing Guantanamo Bay, on the Gang of 14, on him saying, in this case McCain, tax cuts for the rich. That's what he called the Bush tax cuts. And those tax cuts are now going to lapse at midnight plus 1 second on January 1st because McCain, in part, forced that. Because Bush had hoped to make them as permanent as he could. So your taxes are going to go up, and among others, you can thank John McCain. So how is it that he is endorsed? I don't remember these publications endorsing Sharon Angle, the clear conservative and Reaganite in the Republican primary in Nevada. Do you? They waited a while till they backed Marco Rubio in Florida until that guy Christ shows what a mental patient he is. They didn't back Chuck DeVore in California. Long shot, yes, but a solid, committed Reaganite of long standing. They didn't back Mike Lee, the obvious conservative in the Utah Republican convention and primary. They didn't speak out then. And I can go on and on. But for some reason, they feel the need to step out, break with their own pattern, and endorse John McCain. I tell you, the conservative movement cannot be led by this kind of effort. By this kind of effort. At least be quiet about the primary. But no, as you were with the others. McCain's operatives are very active in Washington. They're very active with these conservative sites. They're very active with the Journal. that we didn't have to fight JD Hayworth tooth and nail against things that are so deplorable and destructive of this society. Yes, he may be an imperfect candidate, as most are. And lest we forget, there's McCain-Feingold. The worst attempt to silence the American people during an election cycle since the Alien and Sedition Act and, frankly, since King George and his efforts to quiet the colonies. Would you vote for that? No, I don't think so. And one other thing. Before JD Hayworth announced that he was running in the Republican primary for the Senate in Arizona, McCain was trying to be a kingmaker, as you and I and others were trying to breathe some life back into the conservative movement. Remember this. McCain and Lindsey Graham and some of the others were opposing us. He went to Illinois and campaigned for Kirk, the liar, the liberal, the guy who voted for cap and trade. He supported Crist in Florida against Marco Rubio. Well, I don't now, but you did. And yet none of this merits opposition from the Journal or my beloved National Review. Instead, they're focused on an infomercial and some pork spending. I'll take that infomercial and that pork spending 1,000 times over violations of the First Amendment, over amnesty, over cap and trade, over closing Gitmo, over undermining our efforts to stop Schumer from filibustering judges. I'll take that infomercial 1,000 times. Oh, and by the way, which wasn't said in any of those editorials, on John McCain's website, thanks to Intellectual Conservative, hat tip, he had a whole section there about how you, the people, could get grants and contracts from the federal government. Maybe not for free, but you could go get them. And since I posted that, linking it to Intellectual Conservative, that section on the McCain website, I'm no expert on how websites work, I believe has been tucked into the back of that website. So you got to dig to find it now. Now you want to talk about hypocrisy. You want to talk about a huckster. His name is John McCain, and he's spending millions and millions of dollars. And he may well win that primary. He is by far the front runner. But I can sleep at night knowing that I kept my principles. And I can sleep at night knowing that I'm consistent. And no matter how many people whisper in my ear, it doesn't affect my character and my conscience. I just thought I had to say this because nobody else will.